What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Brute Strength Podcast. It's been a while, been a little MIA, so apologize for that. We're back. Newest guy to the staff, Brian Foley, guys. We're going to unpack where he's been, how he got into this whole dance of strength conditioning, athletic history, and all those things. Just joining the Brute Strength Podcast and the squad. So, Brian, welcome, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Pumped for it, man. So let's go, jump right into it, brother. Give me the rundown, like where you're from, where you grew up, what got you into fitness, and kind of just athletic background stuff.
Born and raised in Southern California, kind of just fast track to a fitness journey. I fell into fitness at the age of about 17. Grew up playing sports. I did everything: baseball, soccer, football, kind of circulated through all the ball sports that you had access to in school. And then that led me to, once I got out of high school, getting into like the Globo Gym bodybuilding scene. And really, that was just a discovery process for myself to gain confidence, right? So being self-conscious, actually loved fitness and kind of combined the two. And that just really led me on a, 16-year path of fitness in general. So started there, started in, bodybuilding aesthetics, kind of learning about nutrition, experimenting on my own body. Then I was like, hey, let me start helping people. And that kind of got me into this trainer space. And then that evolved basically every 3 to 5 years. I'd kind of, work into like a different direction. And then in 2012 is when I found CrossFit and then started to open up and manage CrossFit gyms in Southern California. And then which led me to taking a job in Scottsdale, Arizona, which was for a company called OPEX Fitness. And we basically built out curriculums and a coaching certification program essentially around CrossFit to kind of control all the chaos that was going around.
Yeah.
Um, from that OPEX season of my life, I left that company, went on my own, and then now I'm sitting in the seat of founding a company called Training Day, which is TRNDAY. And this is basically a performance living system for people that are seeking answers and want to live a high performing lifestyle. We're building a system of digital and in-person experiences to allow individuals to accomplish that.
That's awesome, man. So, what part of Southern California?
I'm right smack down center between San Diego and LA. So it's a
Oh,
wine country town called Temecula.
very cool. I've heard that name
Yeah.
before. I had
Yeah.
some roommates that were from like garlic country. I think it's Gilroy and
Yep.
Modesto is where they were from. So,
Yeah. Yep. It's a
yeah,
little bit more north there, but yeah, we're common thread.
very cool, man. So, did you ever do the? I got into a similar time, so we've seen kind of all phases of the fitness space at CrossFit kind of evolve and devolve, some would say, at
Yeah.
times. But so did you ever do the competitive route, or did you get right into like coaching and wanting to help people?
I was dual all along. So 2012, I saw what did I was actually driving back from It's funny, I know the exact
Yeah.
visuals what was happening. 2012, I was driving back from a snowboarding trip from Mammoth, and I saw Rich Froning doing the games, like competing in the
As
games.
as we do, as we
As we
do.
did, right? We were like, this freaking Superman is real kind of
Yeah.
moment. And honestly, that just it sparked this like a hero's journey in myself. And so I was already into fitness and just by nature, uh, I guess like a characteristic I've always had is like just having empathy and understanding of other people. Like didn't really know how to channel that when I was younger, but
Mm.
that understanding and then also seeking this athletic venture for myself, it was kind of paired where I wanted to help people with everything that I was understanding and going through within CrossFit at that time. So I played a dual role, which eventually leads you to identity crisis. I think we all have those. And you basically have to kill a version of yourself to get into the other. But yeah, I was competing and working up the ranks as as an individual. Had a coach all the time. Probably spent 6 years kind of climbing the ladders, but went to like the regional stages on teams. 2016 to 2017 was kind of like my peak year as an
Yeah.
athlete. But it was an awesome year. It was kind of like the highlight and the pinnacle of my athletic side of things, where went to Granite Games, crushed there. Went to Wadapalooza, crushed there, and was like hitting podiums, regional levels as a team. And then about at that year is when I had that identity kind of issue here to where I had to kill the competitor of the sport side of me
Yeah,
and go all in and being a professional coach.
that's it. Did that lead you? So, kind of segue into the party we got. So, you guys don't know, we have coaches meetings where a coach will present some things they're passionate about and all these things. And my kind of first interaction was Brian, was him breaking down some aerobic things and kind of geared toward kind of high rocks things, developing aerobic systems for athletes. So, are we heavy into high rocks? How do you see those things mix, and kind of what led you into getting into kind of doing that dance with us?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say right now, yeah, like heavy into high rocks, and I kind of want to go from like a bird's eye view of this. It's really this concept of endurance and endurance. And I fell into this probably around the last 3 years of my own training journey. I got into heavy running, and not heavy running where I'm doing a 250-mile ultra, but to the sense that like I've always been a practitioner, and I started to find all of these, you've collected your wisdom as an athlete and as a coach for, I mean, 15 years. And I felt like I hit this moment to where I just had this explosion of like an epiphany of all these things connecting. And I had so much internal awareness around the whole process of building endurance and an engine and breath and syncing up with your heart rate and the cadence of your feet and this almost spiritual sense of running. Um, and then within that, I'm always doing mixed modal like modalities of training. So still doing Olympic weightlifting, still looking into like, other skills and just developing that and mixing it into kind of like that soup for a weekly training split. But that running really stuck with me, and I got into other areas of training and coaching, and it inspired me again to kind of look into like, hey, I've never learned these things, nor have I taught others to get and give them these tools and these gems that I can discover. So essentially, I was discovering other modalities from not just doing sets and reps and running for distance and running for a pace, but getting myself and others to really get inside this this body as like the temple,
Hmm.
and realizing what's going on in this internal machine and you living inside that while you're doing conditioning. And that might be a little in depth for people or trying to explain it, but it's it kind of ignited this whole new phase and a whole new philosophy around what I think endurance can become. And this is applicable to a human being. It's
Hmm.
not applicable to an elite high rocks CrossFit athlete, ultra runner, whatever. It can be applied to everything, but it's this thing where it leads you to truth. So I want people to gain and understand the truth, because once they experience it, nothing else will be able to penetrate them, and they hold the power and the autonomy around knowing what to do and how to control their vehicle. So along that path, the last 3 years, 2 years ago, I saw high rocks, and by nature for me, I'm more of an aerobic athlete anyways. So I excelled in that in CrossFit too. It was really hard for me to put on a good amount of strength
Yeah.
and kind of mass at that time too. But I saw that. I saw the stations. I already knew all my data from the freaking million
Yeah.
miles of rowing and skiing I've done. I'm like sick. I don't really care to do muscle ups right now in
Hmm.
advanced gymnastics. So, I tackled a race, and then just being aligned and kind of like where I was, I didn't have an expectation with it. I kind of fell into this high rocks bubble, and I'm seeing high rocks as the infant stages of like 2012 when we discovered CrossFit,
Yeah,
right?
dude.
and
Yeah.
and it's cool. It's fun to be like unplugged from it all, because I really don't. I'm again bird's eye view of like how like it's an endurance perspective, right? And it's not just a silo of endurance, but there's just so much magic in that that's going to carry over into all these other areas. But I love this little like battle of like CrossFit and high rocks. Like this isn't
Yeah.
CrossFit, and just
Yeah.
I giggle at it. I would probably 5-6 years ago I probably would have been like fuck you, like this is excuse my language, but
No, dude, you're
chose
good.
a side and battled. But I look at like kind of like the magic of what's everything's happening, and I essentially can see where High Rock sits for me. in my perspective, is like it's kind of a stripped down synthesis of like magic within what CrossFit has built, right?
Yep.
It's stripped out the complexity and it's built something around a repeatable test that we can all honor, that we love,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Something that's repeatable and you can get better at it. Like that's how we tick as humans.
That's
So
it.
kind of a rambling rant around that, but that's just kind of like where I'm at currently. So
No, dude, I love that. And I think the CrossFit versus that. I know how everybody, and even with the like WFP stuff now, everybody's a big pick a side person, and all these things can't be true at the same time.
yeah.
But I got in my weird experience with it. I'm the opposite of you. I'm a power athlete. I haven't been the
Uh-huh.
least aerobic. L coached me the last few years. He'll tell you, anti-aerobic man. But we've gotten there, right? And so the
Yeah.
magic of playing the game within the game, like you're talking about, kind of ironing the wrinkles out of those shirts, as far as like our skill set and our approach and being able to know ourselves. And like I love what you said about you had the data on it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think all those things apply. The thing I love about it, about High Rocks, is that the barrier for entry, like you said, it's not dumbed down. It's the barrier for entry to that and get people inspired to increase their capacity about this very, I feel like it's anti CrossFit in that it's not the unknown, unknowable like we're used to,
Hmm.
right? Like you and I see Rich failing rope climbs and whenever it comes back, kills everybody, especially on Sundays.
Right.
I can get house mom, whoever into this because I know you jog around your neighborhood.
Yeah.
The stations are something everybody can do or learn to do once you get an exposure to them. And then
Hmm.
that test is the same. The pageantry is great every time. I don't think it can't coexist. And I love the kind of avenue it gives people to be inspired to get develop that aerobic system and have this thing to go kind of touch, right? Put your
Yep.
hand on that stove and see how long you can leave it. Because when I did
Hmm.
one, 20 minutes into it, I knew I had made a mistake. I
Yeah.
those guys, I thought like this is a station workout. We are going to smash ski and row and all this, and I'm going to jog these 1Ks. And
Yeah.
it's the opposite, folks. It is sprinting 1Ks. And
Yes.
I'm seeing Hunter McIntyre, who's about my size. I'm 220. He's a big fella. He's like an anomaly. But you don't see many beefy guys doing that thing, running the way he is. And
Yep.
it's impressive, man. And that time domain is always, I mean, it's nuts. It's an hour
Yeah.
race. Good times under an hour, but like my God, are you seeing that translate to, bringing people into fitness and it being a good avenue because there are things to go do and there's so many opportunities to go and test that, and it's, you can make it a fun trip on how much fun you want to have after you do your race, but before and maybe a day after.
Yeah.
But I'm
Absolutely.
seeing people get more interested in developing aerobic stuff. Like, we had James go do one in Vegas. Are you seeing people want to dabble in both as an avenue to kind of be inspired to do the longer mixed modal stuff and have a thing to go test?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of just nailed it on the head of how you framed it as it's looking at it as a longer mixed modal concept of conditioning,
Hmm.
right? So that's how I've looked at it. And just like you, like I was fortunate to have a savage of a partner in my first race, and we were able to get under an hour. We did like 56 minutes. We crushed, but we had like penalties and
Yeah.
we swapped wall balls in the air because we were ex CrossFitters, like we knew all the ins and outs and little technique stuff. But what opened my eyes was like that you experienced that race. You're like, this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And when you look at what it takes to be at the top of it, right? Not that you have to be at the top, but in order to get there, you start to really appreciate speed and engine, right? And you realize you're like, all right, well, I play this little concept and experiment in my head. I'm like, all right, what if you took, let's just say a CrossFitter that's going to go do a multi-day event. Maybe they're going to the games, right? Or, some type of other competition. And you injected this idea of like, we want you to be able to stay in 175 BPM or 160 BPM heart rate for an hour straight and build that capacity. And how is that going to transfer over to your 12-minute Metcon? That's a test with a barbell, burpees, and skier, right? I go again. It goes back to the truth. It's like we're just looking at the body and the system, and like how do you build this massive engine? So I think it's a powerful tool to start to look into and bring into the other sides in sports, and I mean really any sport that needs endurance.
Hmm.
And if you can build the capacity with inside that sandbox, I know for a fact it's going to transfer over to everything else that you're trying to accomplish. That's essentially in a time domain that's sub 60 minutes and lower,
Hmm.
or even that expands past, 2 to 3 hour, maybe it's an ultra side of things.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, I knew immediately that I was in trouble. But the thing it kind of exposed me to was, and I wonder this, developing those things in athletes and all this stuff. Did it turn you on to more kind of like non-negotiable things when you develop this stuff and like training specific kind of things like balancing though, because you have to have those big blocks. It's an hour event, so there's time you have to put in. Well, these days it's kind of like triathletes, but a little different. I'm going to spend time on these things. Did you
Yep.
build in or develop more non-negotiables as far as like recovery and balance and strength stuff, you think, and kind of break that out a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's one of the things where, you know, getting specific is the
Hmm.
priority, right?
Hmm.
So you've got to get rid of the noise and the fluff.
Yep.
But essentially kind of here like what we'll launch with Brute and we'll call this like within just like this HYROX context, there's something that I developed and it probably exists in different forms and just different phrases, but I've adopted this mindset of an infinity loop. Okay, so you're just thinking of this rhythm that's it's ascending and descending consistently. And if you want to look at what's happening in a HYROX race for an hour straight, you're doing these 4 minute waves of just heart rate spiking and ascending and decreasing, and you're just doing this rhythm. And I started just for whatever reason had an infinity in my head. And I'm like, you know what? Let's start looking at how to take you can base this off heart rate zones, right? So we've all heard of like zone 2, 3, 4. You need to know your actual max heart rate to get like dialed, but you can do some equations and it gets you in this place to know here are your gears. And the goal is to actually is to train the ability to shift gears smoothly, right? So you going from aerobic to anaerobic, that's now a non-negotiable in everything I do in training and anything I do in coaching for anyone is I was never taught or and for my path I was never taught the concept of like how do you create a very smooth lever and switch system to the different energy system. We all know how to like, all right, well let me do lactic repeats or let me do only strictly aerobic intervals and you do a time and you rest and you it's work and then complete rest. If you look at like nature, nothing actually rests, right?
No.
It's very rhythmic. So
Hmm.
everything's based on that rhythm. So in a conditioning sense, I'm in love with this process of working your way through your gears in any context, whether that's running, whether that's doing a mixed modal piece. You learn how to get up into these peaks and you tap them and you come back down. And I'm seeing the fastest adaptation of an aerobic engine in people that I've ever seen, and even in
Hmm.
myself. And I'm just a practitioner in it with less volume, which
Hmm.
is very interesting. And I think it's because
Very.
it's just how the body wants to work rather than just setting yourself on fire and having to put yourself out at the end, right?
Yeah, the old show up and blow up, classic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've loved it, man. I've had one athlete go. She got top 10 in her age group. And it is difficult, man, because I'm a quality guy. Like I'm not a more is more person. I think, like you said, as you develop and you learn as an athlete and a coach, and you kind of melt all these things together before you have that identity crisis, which everybody I've dealt with also.
Hmm.
It's weird to balance, and I think the thing it
Hmm.
drew me to was really lining up the unseen hour things as far as like, hey,
Hmm.
when you go home, here's what I need, right? If we're eating this duration of things, like I know what you think, and like you will shrivel up and die. There's a reason like all these ultra runners have gel packs and all these things.
Yep.
We're skirting the same lines now. If you want this system to keep going, we got to keep gas in the tank. Are you getting specific with people as far as like intake through those days and how they flow through that and around events and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of building out this endure campaign, right? And
Hmm.
just that word and
Hmm.
instilling it. It's I want to see the peak performance of your capabilities and your capacity. And so a lot of this is structured around it. I don't want to I don't want to put a stamp on like here's the diet or here's the food
Yeah.
that you need to do, but with that being said is I want people to get into I want them to train their body to become fat adapted and basically use carbohydrates as nitrous,
Hmm.
right? So I look at it like that. So I think that's a good way to explain it. And you have to do that through timing of foods, and timing of carbohydrates around your sessions and your session types, right? And some of these sessions you need to do the work on an empty tank so that your body has an experience of having zero fuel and having to tap into other areas you never would be able to tap into had you had your, you know, 50 carbohydrates pre-training. So
Yep.
I simplify it in that nature, and obviously you get the macros, enough protein, and hit the basics and principles. But it really comes around of like find out what your body reacts really well to. And speaking on food, is last year I launched a product called Primus, and it's raw honey. It's raw unfiltered honey, raw filtered honey. And then we have a solar sea salt with it for an electrolyte component. And all I really did was look at the average person of like how much carbohydrates they're going to actually be tapping into in an aerobic or basically just any conditioning. And this is also for strength training as well because you're basically just all sugar at that point. And looking at like the average person, what they need for electrolyte amounts per 30 minutes of physical activity. So I made these on the go packs and basically just so simplify it. It's honey and salt. You could take a tablespoon and pour some salt and straight to the dome style and go on with your
But
day.
this is that sexy tear off pack though.
Yeah, the sexy tear off pack and it's black and you just made the honey cool, right? And so
Yeah.
it was something that I was playing around with and saw immediately. I was like, wow, like I can burn. You start to learn the magic of honey. We can get into that or not, but
Yeah.
a separate conversation. But just real quick is you have a dual carbohydrate source in honey, and it's the most bioavailable carb that exists on Earth, and the bees make it, so it's that much cooler.
Yep.
So if you have that and you shuttle that with you have the carbohydrate to shuttle these electrolytes, you're now have that nitrous.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I
yeah,
I
so
didn't know
it's a
that.
lot around the carbohydrates for sure.
It's gonna get me in a wormhole with the
Yeah.
bio. I'm getting so I got so into like nerd things of like Centurion things and as you do before people made like ice baths and stuff super novel and not what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. But yeah, that's nuts. I didn't even know you got a hand in a lot of things, bud. You got a lot of pots on the
Yeah.
stove, we say in
Yeah.
the South. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a way to control the chaos internally, right? It's a nonstop machine, so it's a way for me to have outlets. So I enjoy it.
No, I love that, man. And so speaking of that, you got a lot of pots on the stove. What are you most excited for coming in the kind of next chapter, like with us, with your promise stuff, with whatever training day you're launching and all that stuff? What are we most pumped about in the next chapters for Brian?
Yeah, it's really impacting and living an experience in a life that like I love, and then also being able to create experiences for others, right?
Mhm.
And a like-minded tribe, and that tribe is fitness, right?
Yep.
And so with Brute and you guys, this coaching core, and that's me to the core, right? Like that's just
Mhm.
who I've been and am, and having such a dope community around that, and going in to tap into a new community, and essentially kind of just leading like a just a badass charge, like a charge for like here's what we're doing, and just having fun with it. Like that's the biggest thing is like let's let's push evolution forward for everybody, but like let's make it a blast. And so that's what I'm living from. My day to day is like, is this going to be dope? Is it going to be fun? And is it impacting everyone involved? Yes, hell yes, yes. All right, let's freaking rock and roll. And not, it doesn't, nothing else matters because that will just lead us to these outcomes that will it'll lead us to these experiences and it'll lead us to moments we'll never forget. So that's my inspiration around everything.
No, I love that, man. That's the old not pouring the cup out, it's overflowing into everybody else's thing. Love that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome, man. Well, brother, it's I feel good about this, man. I'm
Yeah,
excited,
it's
man.
good.
We've been on I hate this thing got so long to get going, but we're
Yeah.
taking over gyms and taking that WFP and all these things. So I'm excited to see what's to come, man. Brian's gonna be our High Rocks guy, endurance man. Apparently, all things endurance we're involved in. And so, where can they find you, brother, when they want to come find you?
Yeah, so you can just go to trainday.co, trnday.co. That's the brand, Primus Fuel. That's Primus fuel.com. Those are, two of my products. And then really I'm dark on most ends in
Yeah.
socials, but My social personal handle is actually Novus Foley, NOVASFOLEY. So you can find me there.
Very cool, man. Guys, it's been another episode of the Brute Strength Podcast. We'll be back sooner than later. Another new coach to the staff, man. The tribe grows. It's been a crazy few months for us with WFP podium stuff. Y'all seen it out there. You can find us at brutestrengthtraining.com. My Instagram's at Dex Hopkins. We will see you in the next one. Good luck.